Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I am Engineer Shad Muhammad, lecturer at Department of Civil Engineering, ComScience University, Islamabad, Sahiwal campus. Welcome you all to this next interesting topic. That is lecture number 27, and the topic is evaluation and testing of building materials in laboratory and on site. We will be going through different ASTM codes regarding site, testing on site and testing in laboratory. And this topic concerns with the subject civil engineering, construction and graphics. In our previous lecture, that is lecture number 26, we discussed sustainability, productivity, cost effectiveness of construction and construction industry. And we briefly went through different protocols which need to be followed by the contractors, by the companies and by the government. So we studied introduction to the construction industry, and it's time for the transformation. And we also went through companies as a spearhead of transformation. We discussed different processes and technologies, technology, material and tools, processes and operations, strategy and business model innovation, people, organization and culture. Industry as a whole need to transform. So we also went through government needs to encourage and support this transformation. We went through regulation and policies and transforming public procurement processes. So, and we summarized a whole lecture in the way forward. So this was a very extensive lecture, that is lecture number 26. Alright, in today's lecture 27th, we will be discussing multi-different codes, and the first code we will be discussing is standard practice for sampling fresh mixed concrete. Second code will be related to standard test method for slump of hydraulic cement concrete. Third test will relate to standard test method for temperature of freshly mixed hydraulic cement concrete. Fourth test will be related to standard test method for density, yield and air content gravimetric of concrete. Fifth is related to standard practice for making and curing concrete test specimen in field. And sixth is standard practice for capping cylindrical concrete specimens. Seventh is standard test method for compressive strength of hydraulic concrete specimen. And these rest to standard method test method for air content of freshly mixed concrete by volumetric method. Standard test for air content of freshly mixed concrete by pressure method. So these last two topics will be covered by the student itself. So I will be just discussing almost these 7 codes. Alright, the first code of ASTM which we will be discussing is the standard practice for sampling fresh mixed concrete. How we are going to sample from freshly mixed concrete. Okay, this designation of this code is C172 slash C172 metric M. Okay, this scope of this code is this practice covers procedures for obtaining a representative sample of fresh concrete as delivered to the project site on which tests are to be performed to determine the compliance with the quality requirements of the specification under which concrete is furnished. The practice includes sampling from stationary, paving and truck mixers, and from agitating and non-agitating equipment used to transport central mixed concrete, and from continuous mixing techniques, mixing equipment. So different sampling from different equipments will be stated in this code. from stationary equipment, from paving and truck mixers, and from agitating and non-agitating equipment. So these are the reference documents. Significance and use, how we are going to sample. This practice is intended to provide standard requirements and procedures for sampling freshly mixed concrete from different containers used in the production or transportation of concrete. The detailed requirements as to materials, mixtures, air content, temperature, number of specimens, slump, interpretation of results, and precision and bias are in specific test methods. So this is important, how we are going to sample. So the elapsed time shall not exceed 15 minutes. So when you are concreting, before taking a sample, means elapsed time of taking the sample should not exceed more than 15 minutes between obtaining the first and final portion of the composite sample. So within those sampling, time elapsed should not be more than 15 minutes. Transport the individual samples to the place where fresh concrete tests are to be performed or where test specimens are to be molded. So they shall be combined and remixed with a shovel, the minimum amount necessary to ensure uniformity and compliance with the minimum time limit specified. So it says that you should take the sample to the place where they are going to be molded or where tests are going to be performed. Start test for slump, temperature and air content within 5 minutes after obtaining the final portion of the composite sample. So when you take the final composite mix from the sample, then within 5 minutes you should start performing test for slump, test for temperature and air content, which we will be discussing in this lecture later on. Complete the test expeditiously, quickly. Start molding specimen for strength test within 15 minutes after fabricating the composite sample. So you should start molding the specimen within 15 minutes after you take the composite, compose the composite sample. Expeditiously obtain and use the sample and protect the sample from sun, wind and other sources of rapid evaporation and from contamination. So rapid evaporation and contamination should be prohibited. Okay, what is the procedure? Size of sample. Make the samples to be used for strength tests a minimum of 28 liters. So a minimum of 28 liters sample needs to be taken. Smaller samples are not prohibited for routine air content, temperature and slump tests. So smaller samples can also be taken if you are going to conduct test of air content in the concrete and temperature of the concrete and slump test. The size of the sample shall be dictated by the maximum aggregate size. So the size of the sample is directly proportional to maximum size of the aggregate. The procedure used in sampling shall include the use of every precaution that will assist in obtaining samples that are truly representative of the nature and condition of the concrete as follows. So according to nature of the concrete, you should take a sample. So if your nature is sampling from stationary mixers, if you are extracting your sample from stationary mixer except paving mixer, so you should follow this protocol. If not, then other protocols. Sampling the concrete by collecting two or more proportions taken at regularly paced intervals during discharge of middle portion of the batch. So if there is from stationary mixture there is a discharge of concrete, so from a middle portion you should try to take the sample from middle portion, and intervals should be between two sampling. There should be regular interval. Obtain these portions within the time limit specified and combine into one composite sample for testing purpose. So almost different samples you should take from one batch and try to take them from the middle batch and then combine them and mix them together. Do not obtain portion of the composite sample from the very first and very last part of the batch discharged. Perform sampling by passing a receptacle completely through the discharge stream, or by completely diverting the discharge into the sampling container. How you are going to take the sampling from the stationary mixer? Either you should completely divert the discharge to the sampling container, or you should just bring the mold in front of the discharging stationary mixer. If the discharge of the concrete is too rapid to divert the complete discharge system, discharge the concrete into a container or transportation unit sufficiently large to accommodate the entire batch, or then accomplish the sampling in the same manner as given above. So if discharge is so fast that you cannot adopt any of these two protocols, then you should discharge that into some very large container, and then you should follow the same protocols that from the middle, and adopt the same interval. Take care not to restrict the flow of concrete from the mixer, container or transportation unit so as to cause segregation. So there should not be any disruption in the flow of the concrete from the mixer, container or transportation unit, otherwise it may cause segregation. These requirements apply to both tilting and non-tilting mixers. So both stationary tilting mixer and both stationary non-tilting mixers, you should adopt sampling technique similar to this one. No sample should be taken before 10% or after 90% of the batch has been discharged. So this is that before taking sample and after duration, that after this duration, this much percent of the discharge you cannot take sample, and before this much discharge you cannot take sample. Sampling from paving mixer. So you know that this paving mixer is an equipment and used for concreting pavements. So sampling the concrete after the content of the paving mixer have been discharged. So when that is discharged, then you should obtain samples from at least 5 different portions of the pile and combine them into one composite sample for testing purpose. Avoid contamination with the subgrade material or prolonged contact with an absorptive subgrade. So 5 samples you should take. Sampling from the continuous mixer. Sample the concrete after the discharge of at least 140 liter of concrete. Combine them and after obtaining the composite sample, wait a minimum of 2 minutes and a maximum of 5 minutes before beginning test. So when you take samples from all these processes, you should wait for 2 minutes and maximum 5 minutes before you start testing. Additional procedure for large maximum size aggregate concrete. You can see this is highly specific. So definitions that wet sieving concrete. The process of removing aggregate larger than designated size from the fresh concrete by sieving it up on the sieve of the designated size. So wet sieving concrete is this, that concrete is wet and you are going to sieve from some specific size. So this is all about sampling, how you are going to take a sample. So there are a few basic protocols that when you should first look into the category of the equipment, that either it is stationary or continuous mixer, or it is paving mixer. So you should adopt the same protocol as described in that category. Furthermore, mostly we have to adopt, we are using stationary mixer. So how you are going to take is this, that you should take try that concreting is not disrupted, and you should divert that to molds and or buckets, and you should make sure that before 10% of the discharge and after 90% of the discharge you should not take the sample, and frequency of the sampling should be almost within 5 minutes distance, maximum 5 minutes distance you should take the sample, and within when you have taken 3 to 5 samples, then you are going to mix them together and blend them together, and then wait for minimum 2 minutes and maximum 5 minutes before conducting any other tests on freshly mixed concrete. So that is from standard practice for sampling freshly mixed concrete. The second test which we will be studying in this lecture is a standard test method for slump of hydraulic cement concrete. So slump test we will be studying as per designation of ASTM C143 C143M-12. This test scope states that this test method covers determination of slump of hydraulic cement concrete both in stationary and in field. So both in stationary, in laboratory and in field, both will be discussed, and these are the reference documents. Okay, summary of the test. A sample of freshly mixed concrete is placed and compacted by rodding in a mold shaped as the frustum of the cone. So your mold should be as frustum of the cone, and mold is raised and concrete allowed to subside. The vertical distance between the original and the displaced position of the center of the top surface of the concrete is measured and reported as the slump of the concrete. Significance and use. Okay, apparatus which is required for conducting slump test is mold. What is the specification of the mold? The test specimen shall be formed in a mold made of metal or plastic. Mold can be of metal or plastic. Okay, not readily attacked by the cement paste. So cement paste should not attack and attach themselves to this mold. And the mold shall be sufficiently rigid to contain and maintain the specified dimensions and tolerance during use, resistant to impact forces, and shall be non-absorbent. The mold should have these specifications and these qualities, and metal mold shall have average thickness of not less than 1.5 millimeter, and plastic mold minimum wall thickness should be 0.125 inches or 3 millimeters. Okay, the mold shall be in a form of lateral surface or the frustum of the cone with the base 8 inches. Base of the cone should be 8 inches in diameter, and that is dia of the base, and top is 4 inches dia, and height of the frustum or cone is 12 inches. So above it is 4 inches, below it is 8 inches, and total height of the frustum is 12 inches. Okay, individual diameter and height shall be specified plus minus 1 by 8 inches for prescribed dimensions. So this is the tolerance of your sides. The base and top shall be open and parallel. Okay, mold shall be provided with foot piece and handles similar to that shown in figure. So it should be having foot piece and handle. The mold shall be free from dents, deformations, and adhered mortar. A mold which clamps to a non-absorbent base plate is acceptable instead of one illustrated. So this is your mold. So these are the dimensions: 4 inches plus minus. These are the tolerance, and this is 8 inches, and you can see that these are the handles and the distance of the handle, dimensions unit you can see, conversion unit in dimensions. And these are the foot pieces, these one. All right. If you have plastic mold, then it should be made of ABS, acrylonitrile butadiene styrene plastic, and it should have these tensile modulus of elasticity this much, tensile strength should be this much psi, and percentage elongation and break should be this much. Check and record conformance to the mold's specified dimensions when it is purchased or first placed in service, and at least annually after. So when you buy these equipment, slump equipment, then you should check the equipment and conformance with the specified in this STM code, and then annually you should recheck it. If the condition of any individual mold is susceptible of being out of tolerance, then you should discard it. Okay, specification of tamping rod: a round, smooth, straight steel rod, 5 by 8 inches dia, and then this is the tolerance, plus minus 1 by 16 inches dia. The length of the tamping rod shall be at least 4 inches. This is the length of the dia rod, greater than the depth of the mold, and this is the 4 inches greater than depth of the mold, that is 12 inches plus 4 inches, 16 inches, but not greater than 24 inches. So overall length should not be greater than 24 inches. So its length should be between 16 to 24 inches. And between any type of that can be, but that rod should be smooth, round, smooth and straight. Both ends of the tamping rod should be rounded to a hemispherical tip of the same diameter as rod. Okay, measuring device: a ruler, metal roll up measuring tape or similar rigid or semi-rigid measuring instrument marked with increment of 1 by 4 inch or smaller should be available. Okay, scoop and sample. The sample of the concrete from which test specimen are made shall be representative, or entire batch it shall be obtained from as per the codes which we discussed previously. What is the procedure? Okay, dampen the mold and place it on the rigid, flat, level, moist, non-absorbent surface free of vibration, and that is large enough to contain all the slumped concrete. It shall be held firmly in place during filling and perimeter cleaning by the operator standing on the 2 foot pieces or by clamping arrangement to a base plate as described. Fill the mold in 3 layers. Mold should be filled, this frustum and cold cone should be filled in 3 layers, each approximately 1/3 the volume of the mold. So in 3 layers, 1/3 of the volume, 1/3, 1/3 and 1/3, and place the concrete mold using a scoop. With the help of scoop you should be placing the concrete inside, and move the scoop around the perimeter of the mold opening to ensure an even distribution of concrete with minimal segregation. So with the help of scoop you should move that around the perimeter that there is minimum segregation. Rod each layer 25 times uniformly over the cross section with the rounded edge of rod. So 25 times you have to rod the sample, each layer of the sample. So total 75 times, and per layer 25 times. From the bottom layer, this will necessitate inclining the rod slightly and making approximately half of the strokes near the perimeter, and then progressively with the vertical strokes spirally towards the center. So you should make sure that the base layer you should be tamping at the perimeter of the frustum, and moving spirally you should move towards the center. Rod the bottom layer throughout its depth. So bottom layer should be tamped throughout its depth. For each upper layer, allow the rod to penetrate through the layer being rodded and into the layer below 1 inches. So if you are placing the second rod and you are going to tamp that will be almost 1/3 of 12 inches, which is almost 8 inches. And when you are tamping 8 inches, that 4 inches newly placed layer, then you should your tamping rod should be going in depth 4 plus 1 inch in the below layer. In filling and rodding the top layer, the heap the concrete above the mold before rodding is started. So there should be a heap above the top layer before rodding is started. If rodding operating results in subsidence of concrete below the top edge, add additional concrete to keep an excess of concrete above the top of the mold at all times. So if there is lowering of concrete, then you should add more additional concrete. After the top layer has been rodded, strike off the surface of the concrete by means of screeding or rolling motion of the tamping rod. With the help of screed you can level the surface, or with the help of tamping rod you can level the surface. Continue to hold the mold down firmly and remove concrete from the area surrounding the base of the mold to preclude interference with the movement of the slump concrete, and remove the mold immediately from the concrete by raising it carefully in a vertical direction. So your mold should be raised in vertical direction, not inclined. Raising the mold a distance of 12 inches by a steadily upward lift with no lateral or torsional movement. So there should not be any torsional or lateral movement. Okay, and you should lift to 12 inches height. Complete the entire test from the start of the filling through removal of the mold without interruption, and complete it within elapsed time of 2.5 minutes. 2.5 minutes. Within 2.5 minutes you have to complete this whole slump test. Immediately measure the slump by determining the vertical distance between the top of the mold. Top of the mold is at 12 inches and the displaced original center of the top surface of the specimen, and that fallen top surface of the concrete, and it should be taken from the center of the top surface of the concrete. If a decided falling away or shearing off of the concrete from one side or portion of the mass occurs, disregard the test and make a new test on other portion of the sample. So if there is a complete shearing off or falling away of the concrete from the sample, then you should totally discard it and take a new sample from the that sampling bucket. So if two consecutive tests on a sample of concrete show a falling away or shearing off of a portion of the concrete from the mass of the specimen, the concrete probably lacks the necessary plasticity and cohesiveness for the slump test to be applicable. So they lack the plasticity and cohesiveness, so the slump test cannot be adopted when two consecutive specimens are taken and they start shearing off from one side. Okay, report should be in terms of inches or millimeter to the nearest of 1/4 inches. Precision and bias you can study how you are going to make sure that your equipment is precise. So these are the protocols. If you have single operator precision, then your test measure should be like this one, and multi-operator precision, then your test. These are the for precising your test equipment and result. Okay, This is all from slump test, how you are going to conduct a slump test. First we discussed the basic requirement of the mold, that which type of mold you can create, and what are the specification and tolerance limits for that. And then we discussed that what is the purpose and summary, and then we discussed the rodding, what is the length of the rod, and how we are going to conduct the slump test. In our third test of freshly mixed concrete will be a standard test method for temperature of freshly mixed hydraulic cement concrete, and the code designation of ASTM C1064 hash C1064 metric and dash 12. These are the scope, and these are the reference documents. So significance: this test method provides mean for measuring the temperature of freshly mixed concrete. So how we are going to check the temperature of freshly mixed concrete? This test you have to adopt. The measured temperature represents the temperature at the time of testing and may not be an indication of the temperature of the freshly mixed concrete at later times. So at the time of testing, that is representation of the temperature at the time of testing. Okay, concrete containing aggregate of a nominal maximum size greater than 75 may require up to 20 minutes for transfer of heat from aggregate to mortar. So if that is your composite is having aggregate size greater than 75 millimeters, so that will require maybe 20 minutes wait for the transfer of heat, and then you conduct that test. Apparatus container is required, and in which you have to place the container shall be large enough to provide at least 75 millimeter of concrete in all directions around the sensor of the temperature measuring device. Concrete cover must also be at least 3 times the nominal maximum size of the coarse aggregate. So from all the sides, if you are placing the thermometer or that temperature measuring device, then from all the sides there should be 75 millimeter of concrete. Temperature measuring device shall be capable of measuring accurately measuring the temperature of freshly mixed concrete plus minus 0.5 degree centigrade or plus minus 1 degree Fahrenheit throughout a range of 0 to 50 degree centigrade. So from 0 to 50 degree centigrade your thermometer should be capable of measuring, and tolerance is 0.5 degree centigrade. Least count. The dimension of the temperature measuring device shall be such that it allows 75 millimeter or more immersion of the during operation. So your thermometer or temperature measuring device should be such that it should be allowing 75 millimeter immersion in the concrete. Partial immersion liquid in glass thermometers shall have a permanent mark to which the device must be immersed without applying a correction factor. So there should be proper marking that this much depth should be immersed within the concrete. Okay, reference temperature measuring device means you are going to standardize that and compare your thermometer and with some reference. So these are stated here. Verification of accuracy of temperature measuring device. So this is regarding the verification. Okay, this one is interesting. Sampling concrete. It is acceptable to measure the temperature of freshly mixed concrete in either the transporting equipment or the forms after discharge, provided the sensor of the temperature measuring device at least 75 millimeter of the concrete cover. So in transporting equipment you can conduct this test, and also after discharging you can conduct this test. Procedure. What is the procedure? Position the temperature measuring device so that the end of the temperature sensing portion should be submerged a minimum of 75 millimeter. So your temperature measuring device and sensing that sensor should be 75 millimeter dip inside the concrete into the freshly mixed concrete. Close the voids left by the placement by gently pressing the concrete around the temperature measuring device at the surface of the concrete to prevent the ambient air temperature from affecting the reading. So there should not be any gap between the measuring bulb of the measuring device and the concrete. Leave the temperature measuring device in the freshly mixed concrete for about at least 2 minutes. So for 2 minutes you have to leave that temperature measuring device, but not more than 5 minutes. So this is the range that 2 to 5 minutes you can keep that in freshly mixed concrete. Then read and record the temperature to the nearest 0.5 degrees centigrade. Okay, your report and precision and bias and the keywords. So this is all from this code, that when you have mixed the freshly mixed concrete, then from the sample or even the transporting vehicle you can carry out this test and make sure that from 75 millimeter from the bulb is immersed inside the concrete, and wait for 2 to 5 minutes. Within 2 to 5 minutes you have to take the reading, not less than 2 minutes and not more than 5 minutes, and your least count of reading should be 0.5 degree centigrade or 1 degree Fahrenheit. Okay, another test which we will be studying is standard test method for density, unit weight, yield and air content of concrete, and this code is designated by ASTM as C138. The test covers determination of density of freshly mixed concrete and gives formulas for calculating yield, cement content and air content of the concrete. Yield and cement content and air content can be calculated by this code, and yield is defined as the volume of concrete produced from a mixture of known quantities of component material. Yield is defined as the volume of the concrete produced from a mixture of known quantity of the component material. So components are known, and yield is the output, that how much concrete can be formulated from those components. So it is not necessary that components your concrete is equivalent to that components, so that will be your yield will be quite lower than the original components. So these are general prescriptions. Reference documents which are required. Terminologies are important. Symbols. A represents air content and percentage of voids in the concrete, so it is shown in percentage air content. And C, actual cement content, kg per meter cube, that is density, cement content density. And CB, mass of cement in batch. CB should be represented in kgs because it is mass. D represents density of the concrete in units kg per meter cube. And mass, M is total mass of the material batched, representing in per pounds and kg. MC, mass of measure filled with concrete, mass of the measure filled with concrete. MM represents mass of measure, representing kg. RY represents relative yield. And T, theoretical density of concrete computed on the air-free basis. So on the basis of air-free basis, T represents the theoretical yield. Y, yield, volume of the concrete produced per batch. And YT, volume of the concrete which the batch was designed to produce. YF, volume of the concrete produced per batch, and V is the total volume of the component ingredients of the batch, metric cube, and Vm is the volume of the metric cube. So the theoretical density is customarily a laboratory determination, the value for which is assumed to remain constant for all batches made using identical component, ingredients and proportions. So that remains constant and that is measured in laboratory. And the total mass of all materials batched is the sum of masses of the cement, the fine aggregate of the in the condition used, and the coarse aggregate in the condition used, the mixing water added to the batch, and any other solid or liquid used. So that is total mass. They are added together, and that that you will get the total mass and theoretical density. You can calculate that in laboratory, and that will be constant for whole batch. Okay, apparatus balance is required. A balance or scale accurate to measure 4 gram or to within 0.3% of the test load. So 40 gram it should be having the scale, it should be measuring. Tamping rod have same specification, that it should be round, smooth, straight rod, and 16 millimeter should be dia, and length should be 4 inches greater than the measuring device and not exceeding 24 inches. So 16 to almost 24 inches. Internal vibrator frequency should be least 90,000 vibrations per minute. Measure a cylindrical container made of steel or other suitable metal. So these are based on the coarse aggregate, and if your coarse aggregate size is this much, 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, then measuring capacity of the measure should be this much. Strike of plate, a flat rectangular metal plate, and a glass and acrylic plate can also be used. Mallet, rubber mallet with the raw head. Scope procedure. How you are going to perform the base the selection of the method of the consolidation on the slump unless the method is stated in the specification under which the work is being called. So your selection of the sample should be based on slump test, and the method of similar to the slump test, the methods of consolidation are rodding and internal vibration. So for consolidation you are going to conduct rodding and internal vibration. Rod concretes within a slump greater than 75 millimeter or 3 inches. Rod or vibrate concrete with a slump of 25 to 75, 1 to 3 inches, and consolidate concrete with a slump less than 1 inches. So you should be just rodding the slump, rodding the concrete if your slump is 3 inches, and rod or vibrate concrete if your slump is 1 to 3 inches, and consolidate concrete if your slump is 1 inch. Dampen the interior of the measure and remove any standing water from the bottom. Place the measure on a flat, level, firm surface. Place the concrete in the measure using the scope described in that 4.7. Move the scoop around the perimeter of the measure opening to ensure an even distribution of the concrete with minimal segregation. Fill the measure in the number of layers required by consolidation method. Rodding. Place the concrete in the measure in 3 layers of approximately equal volume. Rod each layer with 25 strokes of the tamping rod. When nominal 14 liter or smaller measures are used, 50 strokes when nominal 28 liter, 1 cubic feet measure are used, and 1 stroke per 20 centimeters square of surface for larger measures. So according to the size of the measure, your stroke should be. Rod each layer uniformly over the cross section with the rodded end of the rod using the required number of strokes. Rod the bottom layer throughout its depth. In rodding the layers, use care not to damage the bottom of the Meyer. For each layer, allow the rod to penetrate through the layers being rodded and into the layer below, approximately 25 millimeter or 1 inch. So 1 inch below the rodding layer you should be rodding that. And after each layer is rodded, tap the sides of the Meyer 10 to 15 times with appropriate mallet. So when you have completed the rodding process and minimum 75 blows, and then you should use the mallet and hit the sides of the Meyer using such force so as to close any voids left by the tamping rod and to release any large bubbles of air that may have been trapped. So for the removal of air bubbles you can use this mallet. Add the final layer so as to avoid overfilling. So you should avoid the overfilling. Internal vibration: fill and vibrate the Meyer into approximately equal layers. Vibration should be in two equal layers, and place all the concrete for each layer in the Meyer when starting vibration of that layer. Insert the vibrator at 3 different points in each layer. In compacting the bottom layer, do not allow the vibrator to rest on or touch the bottom or sides of the Meyer. So your vibrator should be little above the bottom. And in compacting the final layer, the vibrator shall penetrate into the underlying layer 1 inch below. So 2 layers, bottom layer and final layer. So when you are vibrating the top layer, so your vibrator should be 1 inch in the bottom layer. Take care that vibrator is withdrawn in such a manner that no air pockets are left in the specimen. Strike off. After consolidation, strike off the top surface of the concrete and finish it smoothly using the flat strike off plate so that the Meyer is level. Okay, cleaning and weighing. After strike off, clean all the excess concrete from the exterior of the Meyer and determine the mass of the concrete and measure to an accuracy consistent with the requirements of 4.1. Calculation. Density, unit weight. Unit weight of the concrete. Calculate the net mass of the concrete in pounds or kilograms by subtracting the mass of Meyer. Mass of the Meyer should be subtracted from the mass of the concrete, from the mass of the Meyer filled with the concrete. So mass of the concrete includes the mass of the Meyer plus mass of the mix. Calculate the density kg per meter cube or pound per cubic feet by dividing the net mass of the concrete by the volume. So density formula is typical mass divided by density. So mass, you can subtract the mass of the concrete, which include mass of the specimen and that equipment, minus or mold, minus mass of the concrete. Alright, theoretical density. Calculate the theoretical density as T is equal to mass divided by volume. The absolute volume of each ingredient is in cubic meters is equal to the mass of ingredients in kilograms divided by 1000 times its relative density. So you have the relative specific gravity and so individual ingredients in kilogram, so in mass kgs divided by 1000 multiplied by specific gravity, you will get the absolute volume of that individual ingredient. So you have to add them together and get the total mass. So relative density of Portland cement is 3.15 if other they are in conformance with other codes. How to calculate yield? Calculation of the yield is in yard cube or meter cube is mass divided by density. Relative yield is RY. Relative yield is the ratio of actual volume of the concrete obtained to the volume as designed for the batch. So this is design and this is actual. So a value of Ry greater than 1 indicates an excess of concrete being produced, whereas value less than 1 indicates that batch will to be shorter of its designed volume. Cement content Cb divided by yield, and air content have this formula. In report you have to show that the following information: identification of concrete represented by the sample, date of the test, volume of density measure to the nearest 0.1 liter, and density, theoretical density, yield, relative yield, cement content, air content, and this is recording precision and bias. So that's it from standard method testing of density, yield, and air content of concrete. Another test which we will be discussing today is standard practice for making and curing concrete test specimen in the field. Designation C31 C31 metric, and scope includes this practice covers procedures for making and curing slender and beam specimen from representative samples of fresh concrete for construction projects. The concrete used to make the molded specimen shall be sampled after all on-site adjustments have been made to the mix proportions, including the addition of mixed water and admixture. Okay, reference documents of ASTM which can be helpful. Terminologies, significance and use. This practice provides standardized requirements for making, curing, protecting, and transporting concrete test specimen under field conditions. So under field, it is field test. Okay, if the specimen are made and standard cured as stipulated herein, the resulting strength data when the specimen are tested are able to be used for the following purpose. So acceptance test of the specified strength, checking adequacy of mixture proportion for strength, quality control, and comparison of the test results, and adequacy of curing and protection of the concrete, and form and shoring removal time requirement. Okay, molds. Molds for the specimen or fastening in contact with concrete shall be made of steel, cast iron, or non-absorptive material, non-reactive with concrete, containing Portland or other hydraulic cement. Mold shall hold their dimensions and shape under all conditions and use. Mold shall be watertight during use and as judged by its availability to hold water poured on into them. Suitable sealant such as heavy grease, modeling clay, or microcrystalline wax shall be used where necessary to prevent leak through the joints. Reusable mold shall be lightly coated with mineral oil or suitable non-reactive form release mineral before use. Cylindrical mold should be in compliance with C470, and beam mold And damping rod have similar specification as we have discussed in previous. Okay, this is damping rod. Diameter and width of the beam, if less than 6, then diameter of the rod is this much, and if it is greater than or equal to, then diameter of the rod is this much. And vibrator, that is 90,000 vibrations per minute. Similar mallet and placement tools and finishing tool, handheld tout, float and trowel. Slump operators, slump okay. Testing requirements. Cylindrical specimen. Compressive or split tensile strength specimen shall be cylinders cast and allowed to set in an upright position. The length shall be twice the diameter of the cylinder, and similar that typical cylinder can be used having a dimension that 6 by 12 inches or 4 by 8 inches. Beam specimen, length shall be at least flexure strength specimen shall be beam of concrete cast and hardened in the horizontal position. The number of the beam cast shall be as directed by the specifier of the test. The length shall be at least 2 inches greater than 3 times the depth of the tested. The ratio of the width to depth of the mold should be not exceed 1.5. and should have 6 by 6 inches in cross section. Sampling of the concrete, slump, air, and we have discussed these tests, how you are going to conduct the slump test, how you are going to conduct the air content and temperature of the concrete. Okay, this is slump. If that is greater than 1 inch, then rodding or vibration should be used, and if that is less than 1 inch, then vibration should be used. Okay, molding requirement by rodding. So cylinder diameter is if 4 inches, then number of layers of equal depth should be 2 layers, and rodding should be 25. Number of rodding per layer, and 6 that is 3, 9 that is 4, and beam if width is 6 to 8 inch, then 2 layers, and greater than 8, then that is 3 or equal depths not exceeding 6 inches. Molding requirement for vibration, that is mold requirement for vibration 4 inches, then number of layers should be 2, and number of vibrator insertion per layer should be 1 time that should be inserted, and then 2 times and 4 times. Depth 1/2 depth of the specimen. Casting beam. Okay, rodding for each same. We'll be discussing the important things, not going through all this document. That will take more than 1 hour to discuss each and every point. Curing. Initial curing. Immediately after molding and finishing, the specimen shall be stored for a period up to 48 hours in the temperature range from 16 to 27 degree centigrade, and in an environment preventing moisture loss from the specimen. So for 48 hours it can be left in the temperature ranging from 16 to 27 degree centigrade. For concrete mixes with a specified strength of 6000 psi or greater, initial curing temperature shall be between 20 to 26 degree centigrade for high strength concrete. And shield all specimen from the direct sunlight, and if used, radiant heating devices, and the storage temperature shall be controlled by using heating and cooling devices as necessary. Record the temperature using a maximum and minimum thermometer. If the cardboard mold are used, protect the outside surface of the mold from contact with the wet bulb or wet other sources of water. A satisfactory moisture environment can be created during the initial curing of the specimen by one or more of the following procedures. So, how you are going to control the moisture? So, immediately immerse molded specimen with plastic lid in water saturated with calcium hydroxide. Store in properly constructed wooden boxes or structures placed in damp sand pits. Cover with a removable plastic lid. Fifth technique is place inside plastic bags. Cover with a plastic sheet or non-absorbent plates if provision are made to avoid drying and damping. Burlaps is used inside the enclosure, but the burlap is prevented from the contacting the concrete surface. A satisfactory temperature environment can be controlled during the initial curing of the specimen by one of the following: use of ventilation, use of ice, use of thermostatically controlled heating or cooling devices, use of heating methods such as stoves or light bulbs. Other suitable methods may be used to provide the requirements limiting specimen storage temperature and moisture loss are met. For concrete mixes with the specified strength of 6000 psi or greater, heat generated during the early ages may rise the temperature above the required storage temperature. Immersion in water saturated with calcium hydroxide may be the easiest method to maintain the required storage temperature. When the specimen are to be immersed in water saturated with calcium hydroxide, specimen in the cardboard mold or other molds that expand when immersed in water should not be used, and early age strength test result may be lower when stored in 16 degrees centigrade or higher than 27 degrees centigrade. On the other hand, at later ages, test results may show a lower or higher initial temperatures. So this is the provision that how you are going to control the moisture and heat temperature. Final curing cylinders. Upon completion of initial curing and within 30 minutes after removing the mold, cure specimen with the free water maintained on its surface at all times at a temperature of 23 to 25 degrees centigrade using water storage tank or moist room complying with the requirements except when capping with the sulfur mortar capping compound and immediately prior to testing. Okay, for a period not to exceed 3 hours immediately prior to testing. Standard curing temperature is not required provided free moisture is maintained on the cylinders and ambient temperature is between this. For beams, they shall be stored in water saturated with calcium hydroxide at 23 to 25 degrees centigrade at least 24 hours prior to testing. Drying the surface of the beam shall be prevented during removal from water storage and completion of testing. Relatively small amount of surface drying of larger specimen can induce tensile stresses in extreme fiber that will markedly reduce the indicated flexure strength. Field curing and cylinders. This is regarding the field curing. Store cylinder in or on the structure as near to the point of deposit of the concrete represented as possible. Protect all surface of the cylinder from the elements in as near as possible the same way as the formed work. Provide the cylinders with the same temperature and moisture environment as the structural work. Test the specimen in the moisture condition resulting from the specified curing treatment, and beam should be real representative. The site. Okay, bank the sides and ends of the specimen with earth or sand that shall be kept damp, leaving the top surfaces exposed to the specified curing treatment. Store specimens representing structure concrete as near the point in the structure they represent as possible and afford them the same temperature, protection and moisture environment as structure. Transportation of specimen to laboratory. Prior to transporting, cure and protect specimen as required in section 10. Specimen shall not be transported until at least 8 hours after final set. During transporting, protect the specimen with suitable cushioning material to prevent damage from jarring. During cold weather, protect the specimen from freezing with suitable insulation material. Prevent moisture loss during transportation by wrapping the specimen in plastic. Wet burlap by surrounding them with wet sand and tightly fit plastic caps. Okay, the report following information: identification number, location of concrete represented by the sample, date, time, name of the individual mold sampling, slump air content, concrete temperature, test result of any other test on the fresh concrete and any deviation from the reference standard test. Curing method: for standard curing, report the initial curing method with the maximum and minimum temperatures and final curing method. For field curing method, report the location where stored, manner of protection from the element, temperature and moisture environment and time of removal from the mold. So very simple. In this test standard we discussed that how you are going to make and cure concrete specimen in the field, which will be tested later for compression and flexure, both for cylinder and beams. So when you have casted your concrete in cylinder and beam, so for 48 hours, 24 hours, you have to carry an initial curing, and then when you remove the molds, so 48 hours, after 48 hours when you remove the molds and the cylinder, then you have to place that in completely submerge that into water before the date of testing. And in case of beams, before 48 hours of testing, you have to place that in water containing calcium hydroxide. Okay, and then you have to test them, and this code states that how you are going to carry out the tamping and the vibration protocols. So that's it. Now we will be discussing another code regarding the testing of civil engineering materials, especially concrete, in field and in laboratory. Standard practice for capping cylindrical concrete specimen, designation C617/C617 metric and 2012. Scope states that this practice covers apparatus, materials and procedures for capping freshly molded concrete cylinder with neat cement and hardened cylinders and drilled concrete cores with high strength gypsum paste or sulfur mortar. So freshly molded concrete cylinder will be capped with cement, and hardened cylinder and drilled concrete cores with high strength gypsum paste or sulfur mortar. These are the reference documents which are required in order to understand this document in complete sense. And significance and use states that this practice describes procedures for providing plane surfaces on the ends of freshly molded concrete cylinders, hardened cylinders, or drilled concrete cores when the end surface do not conform with the planeness and perpendicularity requirements of applicable standards. Practice C1231 and describe alternative procedure using unbounded caps or padded caps. So unbounded caps or padded caps can also be used. Capping equipment, capping plates, neat cement caps and high strength gypsum paste caps shall be formed against a glass plate at least 6 mm thick. So neat cement caps and high strength gypsum caps are formed against glass plate which are 6 mm thick. And other specification, in all cases plates shall be at least 1 inch greater in dia than the test specimen. The surface when new shall be free of gogs, grooves and indentations beyond those caused by the finishing operation. The surface should be free of indentations. Alignment devices shall also be provided. Suitable alignment devices such as guide bars or bull eye levels shall be used in conjunction with capping plates to ensure that no single cap will depart from perpendicularity to the axis of the cylindrical specimen by more than 0.5 degree. No cap will be off-centered on a test specimen by more than 1/16 inches. So alignment devices are required for proper alignment of the concrete and the paste. Melting pots for surfer mortar, pots used for melting surfer mortar shall be equipped with automatic temperature controls and shall be made of metal or lined with a material that is non-reactive with molten sulfur. And these are few precautionary measures regarding use of molten sulfur. Use sulfur melting pots in a hood to exhaust the fumes to outdoors. There should be proper exhaustion system. Okay, capping material. The strength of the capping material and the thickness of the caps shall conform to the requirements of table 1. If the surfer mortar high strength gypsum paste or other materials except neat cement paste are to be used to test concrete with strength greater than 50 megapascal or 7000 psi and their compressive strength is less than the cylindrical compressive strength, the manufacturer or the user of them must provide the following documentation. Anyhow, these are on the table showing the compressive strength and maximum thickness of capping material. You can see that cylindrical compressive strength in psi in megapascal. If that is 500 to 7000 psi, then you should be minimum strength of capping material should be 5000 psi or cylinder strength whichever is greater. So if that is 7000 psi, your minimum capping strength should be 7000 psi. And maximum average thickness of cap so should be not more than 1/4 inch, and maximum thickness any part of cap should not be more than 5/16 inches. Okay, if greater strength cylinders are used and that is more than 7000 psi, then compressive strength not less than cylinder strength, and these are maximum ranges for thickness. Neat hydraulic cement paste. Mix the neat cement paste to the desired consistency at a water cement ratio equal to or less than that required to produce the required strength, generally 2 to 4 hours before the paste is to be used. Remix as necessary to maintain acceptable consistency. Some retempering of the paste is acceptable if the required water cement ratio is not exceeded. Optimum consistency is generally produced at a water cement ratio of 0.32 to 0.36 by mass for type 1 and type 2 cements, and 0.35 to 0.39 by mass for type 3 cements. Freshly mixed pastes tend to bleed, shrink, and make unacceptable caps. The 2 to 4 hours period is generally appropriate for Portland cement. Okay, this one you can see. High strength gypsum cement. No fillers or extenders may be added to neat high strength gypsum cement paste subsequent to the manufacture of the cement. Qualification tests shall be made to determine the effects of water cement ratio and age on compressive strength. 2-inch cubes. Sulfur mortar. Proprietary and laboratory prepared sulfur mortars are permitted if allowed to harden a minimum of 2 hours before testing concrete with strength less than 5000, and for greater than 5000 and greater than 5000 sulfur mortar caps must be allowed to harden at least 16 hours before testing. So for if you are testing 5000 psi concrete, then that should be hardened. Sulfur mortar should be hardened 2 hours before the testing, and if you are testing 5000 or greater than 5000 psi concrete strength, then you are to allow hardening of the sulfur mortar before 16 hours. Determination of the compressive strength. Okay, capping procedure. Freshly molded cylinders. Use only neat Portland cement paste to cap freshly molded cylinders. Make caps as thin as practicable. Do not apply the cement paste to the exposed end until the concrete has ceased settling in the mold, generally from 2 to 4 hours after molding. Form the cap by placing a conical mold of paste on the specimen and gently pressing a freshly oiled capping plate on the conical mold until the plate contacts the rim of the mold. A very slight twisting motion may be required to extrude excessive paste and minimize air voids in the paste. The capping plate must not rock during this operation. Carefully cover the capping plates and mold with a double layer of damp burlap or polyethylene sheet to prevent drying. Removal of the capping plate after hardening may be accomplished by tapping the edges with a raw hide hammer in a direction parallel to the plane of the cap. Okay. Type 1 neat cement caps generally require at least 6 days to develop acceptable strength, and type 3 neat cement caps at least 2 days. Rapid hardening cement, and this is type 1 is ordinary Portland cement. And dry concrete specimen will absorb water from freshly mixed cement paste and produce unsatisfactory caps. Neat cement paste caps will shrink and crack on drying, and therefore should be used only for specimens that are to be moist cured continuously until time of testing. High strength gypsum caps often soften and deteriorate on contact with water and cannot be used on freshly mixed concrete or stored in moist rooms for more than very brief periods. So this is the reason that why high strength gypsum caps cannot be used on fresh concrete. Hardened concrete specimen. Generally, if the end of specimen has a coat or a deposit of oily or waxy material that would interfere with the bond of the cap, remove such coating or deposit. If necessary, the ends of the specimen may be slightly roughened with the steel file or wire brush to produce proper adhesion to the cap. If desired, capping plates may be coated with a thin layer of mineral oil or grease to prevent capping material from adhering to the surface of the plate. Capping with high strength gypsum paste or neat cement paste. Mix the paste as described in this and in this. This do not exceed the water cement ratio determined in qualification test. Form the caps as described in 6.1 using capping plates described in 4.1 section to achieve the alignment required in 4.2. Generally, capping plates may be removed within 14 minutes with gypsum cement paste and after 12 hours with neat cement paste without visibly damaging the cap. So these capping plates can be removed after 45 minutes when you are using gypsum cement paste and after 12 hours when you are using neat cement paste. A number of methods have been used to obtain the desired perpendicularity of the cap to the axis of the cylinder. A mound of paste can be placed on a capping plate on the specimen, lowered into it. A bull's eye level on the top of the cylinder helps obtain alignment. A mound of paste can be placed on the top of the cylinder and a cap plate pressed into it, again using the bull's eye level and other thing. You can see that's capping with the sulfur mortar. It is not permitted to reuse compounds recovered from the capping operation and old caps. Fresh sulfur mortar must be dry at the time it is placed in a pot, as dampness may cause foaming. Keep water away from the molten sulfur mortar. For the same reason, the capping plate or device should be warmed before use to slow the rate of hardening or permit the production of thin cap. Oil the capping plate lightly and stir the molten sulfur mortar immediately prior to pouring each cap. Warning and daily checks which you can conduct on the plainness. Caps may be removed by using hammer or sharp chisel. Place the chisel tip at the bond line and nearly parallel with the plane of the cap so as to create a wedge action when the chisel is struck with the hammer. Protection of the specimen. Okay, in this presentation you have briefly gone through the standard practice for capping cylindrical concrete specimen, and you have gone through this practice in your concrete technology and civil engineering material subjects, and you have already performed these tests as per the standards, but these were in real interpretation of the codes, what code states regarding standard practice for capping cylindrical concrete specimen. Alright, the last test which we will be studying today is the standard test method for compressive strength of cylindrical concrete specimen. Designation C39 #C39 metric and 2014, and A is the revision. A test method covers the determination of compressive strength of cylindrical concrete specimen such as molded cylinders or drilled cores. So both drilled cores and molded cylinders can also be tested. It is limited to concrete having density in excess of 50 pounds per cubic feet. So density should be more than 50 pounds per cubic feet. These are the reference standard documents which will be helpful in interpretation of these codes. Summary of the test states that this test method consists of applying a compressive axial load to molded concrete cylinders or cores at a rate which is within a prescribed range until failure occurs. The compressive strength of the specimen is calculated by dividing the maximum load attained during the test by the cross-sectional area of the specimen. Significance and use of the test, and the individual who tests concrete cylinder for acceptance test shall meet the concrete laboratory technician requirements of practice this one, including an examination requiring performance demonstration that is evaluated by an independent examiner. So the person who is testing concrete must be certified. And certification equivalent to minimum guidelines for ACI concrete laboratory technician level 1 or concrete ACI concrete strength testing technician will satisfy the requirement. Operators required testing machine shall be of type having sufficient capacity and capability of providing the rates of loading. These are regarding testing machine. And design, the machine must be power operated and must apply the load continuously rather than intermittently and without shocks. Accuracy, the percentage of the error for the loads within the proposed range of use of the testing machine shall not exceed 1 plus minus percentage of the indicated load. This is for calibration purposes. Okay, maximum diameter of the bearing face of the suspended spherical seated block shall not exceed the values given below. That if the diameter of the specimen is 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches, 6 inches, then maximum diameter of the bearing face should be 10, and accordingly. Square bearing faces are permissible provided the diameter of the largest possible inscribed circle does not exceed the above diameter. So square bearing faces are also allowed, but you can see that inscribed largest possible inscribed circle does not exceed the above diameter. The center of the sphere shall coincide with the surface of the bearing face within tolerance of plus minus 5% of the radius of the sphere. To ensure uniform seating, the spherical seated head is designed to tilt freely as it comes into contact with the top of the specimen. You can see that this bearing and this socket, ball and socket joint almost, and this is your specimen and this is loading area. Load indication can be shown from dial gauges or digital form. Specimen shall not be tested if an individual diameter of the cylinder differ from any other diameter of the same cylinder by more than 2%. These are the requirement of against the diameter of the cylinder. Procedure. Compression test of moist cured specimen shall be made as soon as practicable after removal of from moist storage. The test specimen shall be kept moist by any convenient method during this period between removal from moist storage and testing. They shall be tested in the moist condition. So all the test specimen for a given test age shall be broken within the permissible time tolerance as prescribed. If you are conducting 24 hours test, then permissible tolerance is 0.5 hour to from 0. Plus minus 0.5 hour, and 3 days is 2 hours, 7 days is 6 hours, 28 days is 20 hours, and 90 days is 2 days. Placing of the specimen, zero verification and block setting. Prior to testing the specimen, verify that the load indicator is set to 0. Rate of loading, apply the load continuously and without shocks. Apply the compressive load until the load indicator shows that the load is decreasing steadily and the specimen displays a well-defined fracture pattern. So if there is a well-defined fracture pattern, then your testing is appropriate. Automatic shut off of the testing machine is prohibited until the load has dropped to a value that is less than 95% of the peak load. When the testing with the unbonded caps or corner fracture similar to the type 5 or 6 pattern shown in figure 2 may occur before the ultimate capacity of the specimen has been attained. continuous compressing the specimen until the user is certain that the ultimate capacity has been attained. Record the maximum load carried by the specimen during the test and note the type of fracture pattern according to figure 2. If the fracture pattern is not one of the typical pattern as shown in figure 2, sketch and describe briefly the fracture pattern. If the measured strength is lower than expected, examine the fractured concrete and note the presence of large air voids, evidence of segregation, whether fractures passes predominantly around or through the coarse aggregate particles, and verify and preparations were in accordance with practice this and this. You can see the fractured surfaces. Type 1, this is like cross, reasonably well formed cones on both ends, less than 1 inch of the cracking through caps. So less than 1 inch through cracking through caps. Type 2 is well formed cone is well formed on one end and vertical cracks running through caps, no well defined cone on other end. No well defined cone on one other end, and you can see. Type 3 is columnar vertical cracking through both ends, no well formed cones. There are no well formed cones and this vertical. Type 4 is diagonal fracture with no cracking through ends. There is a diagonal crack and type with the hammer to distinguish from type 1. And type 5 is side fracture at top or bottom, occur commonly with unbonded caps. With unbonded caps you have this type of fracture. Type 6 is similar to type 5 but ends of the cylinder are pointed. Calculate the compressive strength of the specimen by dividing the maximum load carried by the specimen during the test by the average cross-sectional area. If the specimen length to diameter ratio is 1.75, length to or less, the result obtained in this by multiplying by appropriate correction factor. These are the correction factors. If your length to dia ratio is less than 1.75, then you should apply. These are lesser than 1.75, then you should apply these, and you should interpolate in between. These correction factors apply to low density concrete weighing between 100 to 120 pound per cubic feet and normal density concrete. For high strength 6000 psi, correction factor may be larger than the values listed above, and this is the formula for density calculation and volume calculation. And how you will be reporting this: report the following information: identification number of the specimen, average measured diameter or measured length if outside the range of 1.8 d, cross-sectional area in millimeter square inches, maximum load, compressive strength calculated, and type of fracture and defects in either specimen or cap, age of specimen when determined the density, and this is regarding precision and bias. Regarding the precision and bias, the following table provides the within test precision of test of 6 by 12 inches and 4 by 8 inches cylinder made from the well mixed sample of concrete. So these are coefficient of variation, and these are for 2 cylinders and 3 cylinders. Summary of changes. So this is very simple procedure how in laboratory you are going to test standard test for measuring the compressive strength of cylindrical concrete specimen, both if they are molded cylinders or drilled cores. And in our previous presentation we studied standard test method for capping of these cylinders. So this is all for today. In upcoming lectures, we will be studying more interesting topics. We have not gone through in detail in these standards, and because this is basically practical, and you have studied, and practically you have been demonstrated this in your practical subjects of concrete technology and civil engineering materials. So these are the standard documents, and you should be well versed in understanding these documents, as these documents will be helpful in understanding and performing final year projects. And your all research should be as per the standards followed by ASTM committees. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.